All right, learn to code. Woo! We're doing it. We're learning to code, and it's gonna be fun. And I'm not streaming to the campus yet, but I am streaming to YouTube. So I will share my screen here. I will share the link to the YouTube if you're having issues with campus. I will share the link to what else here, and I am so all right. Well, title screen is the thing that we're building. Last Thursday, let's talk about last Thursday. What did we do last Thursday? No, last Thursday's the name that I came up with for our repo of repos, because generally we demo whatever we built on Thursday, and we need to remember what we built on Thursday, and that is the winner of the vote by one after one round. So ranked choice with 7 votes. A lot of people put this as their first. 5 people put this as their first choice. So we know by our studies of ranked voting math, if you have more than half of the votes as number one, that is how people that's how the suggestion wins, right? So last Thursday is the project that we voted for. Repo of repos, one organized home for all of the projects that we built in this class and are going to build in this class. It's a super simple concept, right? But it's an important skill and something to help like build our sort of coding organizational skills, right? We're gonna build it with a little bit of help from Claude, with a little bit of help from our newly generated coding skills, do a little check-in, have our learn to code moment. It's Tuesday, Tuesday is ideation day. It's where we start kind of getting into the weeds of the projects that we choose, right? So where we left off, right? Yesterday we spent pretty much the whole hour talking about how horrible the world is right now. I mean, we spent a long time, and that's on me. I think it's important. We need to check in. We need to know what's going on, right? Anthropic refused Pete Hegseth's advances, right? OpenAI took the deal, right? There's like a boycott of OpenAI right now. There's a war happening, right? It's all important stuff. Today we're gonna pivot. We're gonna learn to code, right? We talked about what's happening in the world, and now we're gonna build something about it, right? um, so we voted for this last Thursday repo of repos, and here's why I feel like it is a great pick, right? So we've been building projects. We built 3 projects in 3 weeks. We're gonna have 4 at the end of this week, and that is more output than most boot camps or most other sort of like learn to code situations are putting out. But I see in the chats, I see in the Matrix channel, that we don't have the repo of repos yet. Y'all can't find what we're working on easily. The videos, even what you're watching on YouTube, the naming convention is all off. We don't, we need to build some organizational skills as a class. We also need a place to go to that just like lists what we've been working on, why we've been working on it, and how we've been working on it. More importantly, who's been working on it, right? I want everyone to be able to use these projects that we're working on to bolster their portfolios, their resumes. And the easiest way to do that is through proving that you worked on it. GitHub history, commits on these things, right? And so this week we're really going to dig into those organizational skills and also, Git skills. And I hope this isn't redundant, but I do feel like a lot of this stuff is important, and it's not only important to be somewhat redundant with it. This is like redundancy by design. But it's important to know how to do this stuff and to practice, all your Git syntax and working in a repo and indexing projects that you've worked on and setting up projects on your computer, setting up your sort of foundational dev environment on your machine, right? Because if you can't, explain your project, compile it on your machine, navigate through it, if you can't find your projects, if you can't show them to people, if you can't explain what you built, did you really build it, right? So it's like organization is sort of, to me, it feels like a boring skill, but it's a skill that separates the sort of amateur builder from the more professional, right? And we wanna look professional, right? So what today's gonna look like, we are gonna look at some headlines because we gotta stay advised. We gotta stay smart about what's happening. The world is weird, right? We're gonna open VS Code. We're gonna start building. We're gonna use a little bit of Claude. We'll see kind of how we use Claude as like a foundation for kind of setting us up, bootstrapping us, building a boilerplate for a repo, and also why it matters to sort of know how to audit that process, right? Today's headlines, and apologies if the text is a little small. Claude outages, right? This is directly relevant, right? We're using Claude in class. Might even go out during this class, and then we'll really need to learn how to code, right? It's a tool we use in class. It went down twice in the last 24 hours, like catastrophic, like not working for anyone. It's because free users are up 60% since January. Paid subscribers have doubled since October, and we can kind of see that, like, the effects of this hashtag quit GPT. Are people still using hashtags? Well, anyways, the effects of the hashtag quit GPT boycott from this Pentagon Anthropic situation is creating so much new traffic for Claude as, a competitor to OpenAI, who just is sucking the boot right now. The irony of it, right, is that the government tried to hurt Anthropic. Like, they tried to hurt them on an economic level, a supply chain risk. That's what they said about Anthropic. But people are flocking to Anthropic because guess what? Humans don't want to support robots killing humans, right? Easy peasy. They should have known that from the first place, right? Government tries to hurt Anthropic and looks like it's accidentally giving them a demand problem, right? It also looks like OpenAI is renegotiating. So yesterday, OpenAI, like shortly after our class, right? OpenAI, not because of our class, right? But shortly after our class, OpenAI rushed to sign that Pentagon deal. Altman, shortly after the class, is calling his rollout like quote unquote sloppy, and they're trying to renegotiate terms now. This is what happens when tech companies, when developers rush to fill a political vacuum without thinking it through, right? There is a coding lesson here, believe it or not, right? Don't ship something you haven't tested. Because just because there's pressure to move fast, right? Clients are gonna are gonna pump up the pressure. They always want it done yesterday, right? Um, Test the things that you're shipping, especially if they affect human lives, right? Meta glasses. Swedish developer or a Swedish newspaper discovered that contract workers in Kenya are manually reviewing private video footage from Meta Smart Glass users, right? So these are not Meta glasses, but there are manual people watching like there's people watching like contract workers watching private video footage from the Meta Smart Glasses. To train models, probably to find like reportable visuals, nudity, financial information. This is to train the AI models, right? They've been doing this with training AI models for a while. It's an issue, right? There's contract workers overseas that are basically paid to watch horrible stuff for and just all sorts of content to train AI models. It's also surveillance economy in its most like literal form, right? Humans in another country watching your most private moments so that a corporation can train a model. I don't know. A little moment of thought for the class, if you want to put it in the box or mic up. Does this change the way that you think about smart glasses? Yes or no? The idea that contract workers in another country could be watching your most private moments. Are you still going to rush out and buy those Meta glasses? No, maybe. I don't know. All right, let's check this out. Oh, somebody asked, what's a boilerplate in a non-mechanical context? I don't even know what a boilerplate is in a mechanical context. Boilerplate is kind of like just the sort of like foundational setup that you like a template for your application, your website, your program, and usually like we use it in sort of a design sense. You could have boilerplate HTML, which would just be like the template code for an HTML file. You could have boilerplate application, and that's basically just like the stuffs we need to set up the base of our application. Boilerplate. I think I defined that right. I'm gonna even look it up. Boilerplate and code, because sections of reusable standardized code that must be included in many places with little or no alteration, primarily to satisfy language or framework requirements rather than for unique business logic. So I kind of butchered that a little bit. In HTML, what boilerplate looks like is, let's look up a basic boilerplate. What our boilerplate looks like in HTML is like this, right? This is all HTML files are gonna have this in there, you know. I mean, or maybe they don't, and that's a pretty bad HTML file. But having sort of the template that you add at the start of a project, cool. Creepy dudes have been using them and talking about adding facial recognition. Yeah, I always think about how things can be used badly first. Glasses, voice activated stuff gives me the shivers. Yeah, I mean, I like, as a consumer, I enjoy ambient computing, right? I think it can be helpful. I I do think we're just like constantly doing this like rushed rollout, and people have a hard time with glasses, with the glasses. Cameras on people's faces. Uh, it's okay if like we do the concealed carry camera with our phone, but like once they're on your face, it seems like you're like tricking people into recording stuff. And I don't know if people remembered like when they first dropped the Meta glasses in like 2018, 2017 maybe. And people were like ripping them off of people's faces and stomping them and flipping over smart cars in the Bay Area. But yeah, there's always like a real sort of disgusted response. The public is critical of these devices for good reason. And I think it goes back to that sort of lesson in like testing what you're going to ship before just like having it out there. There's no real way to test the sort of social response to something like Meta smart glasses, right? It's kind of just like, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, uh, Goldman Sachs AI jobs, right? Goldman Sachs says AI could displace 1 to 4 million U.S. jobs per year. All right, this is not new, but they also say that the U.S. economy creates over 30 million gross new jobs per year. Gross. And they expect AI to create more jobs than it destroys. So this is like a little bit of a more nuanced take from Goldman Sachs, right? It's not just like AI will take all the jobs. It's like AI will take the jobs, but it's also creating jobs. So the question here is like, what kind of jobs is it creating and who gets them, right? If we look at Meta's smart glasses, it looks like it's creating like the worst sort of jobs ever. We're like humans becoming basically watching the most like violent, gory, horrible content possible to help train models, right? And like that's not jobs that are that like you're looking for in Silicon Valley. Those are mostly outsourced positions, right? So learning to build with AI like we're doing today is the sort of skill that puts you on the right side of that equation, even though it is just hypothetical. And should we trust what Goldman Sachs thinks? Cloudflare, beautiful display of what we should be learning today when we're setting up this repo, right? Cloudflare's annual threat report concluded that the number one way that attackers are getting stolen credentials is logging in with your password. It's not hacking anymore. It's not these like 0-day exploits or looking at like all the vulnerabilities. It's literally passwords that people reuse that are getting leaked in breaches. So when we build things, we have to remember that security starts with the basic stuff that we probably learned in the 90s and 2000s, right? Strong passwords, environment variables, avoiding hard coding, secrets into your code. And then the war is entering the fourth day. God dang, dude. Some of these I'm reading for the first time. Yeah, these numbers are crazy. This is the backdrop to everything else we're talking about, right? The Pentagon deals, military AI. This is what it looks like when it's not theoretical. Like all of the tech stuff we're talking about is very much playing out in the worst ways possible on the world stage at the moment. So that's what's happening. It's so not fun and bleak. I'm sorry. Um, but all right, little interactive moment for you. Spot the security bug. This is a mistake we all make when we're learning to code. Spot the security bug, right? So, something interactive, right? We talked about that Cloudflare says that attackers don't really hack in anymore. I mean, they still do, but they're not doing it as much. They'll just log in. So I want to show you what uh, what that means, right? So look at these two code blocks, right? And let's see, maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger. So, same app, right? We got app.js. We pushed both of them to GitHub. All right. So, one of them is a beautiful gift for attackers, right? They literally set up programs to go through GitHub to find these sorts of pieces of code. Um, One of them is not. So which one? Which one do you think is the bad one? Which one is the gift for hackers? All right. Yes, yes. All right. Maybe I made it a little bit too easy on you, right? So hard coded values, right? Uh, we got our API key right there, right? We got our password. It's like the house key is basically taped to the front door, right? And that's the database password. That's the entire database password, right? Plain text. A file, that file gets pushed to GitHub. Bots are scanning GitHub at all times for this sort of pattern, right? If they find those API keys, uh, they'll they can do whatever they want with what they just have access to, right? Within seconds of code like this getting pushed, your keys are compromised, right? That's something that's important. So right side, what we have is this process.env.api key, right? So anybody in the class want to guess what that does? Um, I know we haven't talked much about environment variables yet, but anybody in the class want to guess what this process.env.api underscore key does? All right, we're typing, we're thinking, we're feeling good. Um, yeah, so just let it marinate for a second. So process.env.api key reads from a separate file called .env, and that lives on your machine but never gets pushed to GitHub, right? So you add .env to your git ignore file, and the code will work in the same way, but the secrets are invisible. So we'll walk through each process.env line, right? We're calling the API key from the environment variables, and .env is your environment variables. It's like your password manager file. Uh, We're setting up a constant that's your database password, process.env pass. We're setting up environment variable for the port that you're using, process.env.port, and then the app is listening at port. So Cloudflare says, based off of this report that came out a couple days ago, 63% of all login attempts use credentials that were already compromised elsewhere, right? So what that means is that most hacking isn't like hacking, right? It's just it's either social engineering or somebody finding your password because it was left visible or compromised somewhere, right? And this is what the left code block does for hackers, right? Single most common security mistake that beginners make. I have seen team members make this mistake, right? I've seen people lose money because of this mistake. I'm not even joking, right? So when we build our project today, we're gonna do it the right way. It's low stakes. There's nothing really to steal from this project, but it's still important that you keep your project secure. Uh, yeah, it's these are solid skills that we all need to know. Somebody says when I asked what the process, they say accesses the data that actually stores passwords. Yes, that's what it does. So I want to kind of like 63% of breaches happen because of this sort of these sort of slip ups, right? Or there's some sort of data breach, right? Equifax data breach, right? Like that's kind of outside of your control. But how do we stay on top of not doing this, right? We set up our environment variables first. Like this is like sort of part of your security boilerplate in a way. You have your environment variables set up outside of the program. If you're deploying, the environment variables are within whatever your deployment software is or application is, right? And if you accidentally post your environment variables to Git, you can remove the cache and ignore those files and make sure that it doesn't show up in the Git history. But I would also still consider those keys to be somewhat compromised because it's like it's people can look through your Git history, right? They can see if you've committed these specific environment variables, right? It's pretty brutal. Version control is set up to remember things, right? So I guess we could do that too. We could probably walk through how we undo a commit of an environment variable file, but I would still, just to be like super super safe, if you've accidentally committed your environment variable and even like you remove the cache, you ignore it, you do everything, I would still change my keys in that situation. So the last Thursday theory, what we're building today, this last Thursday program. So what is it? What does it mean, right? Last Thursdayism is an existential crisis inducer, right? A philosophical thought experiment. What if the entire universe, every star, every fossil, every memory you have was created last Thursday? Ooh. Everything implanted, right? Some Westworld or biblical, I don't know, like whatever. If you and you can't disprove any of it. Any evidence you point to was also created last Thursday. That's what last Thursday is, right? Or Omphalos's hypothesis that the world was created with the appearance of age. Trees already have their rings. Stars already had light in transit. So yeah, it was mocked, but the logic is fun, right? It's just this existential idea that you can't prove that the past existed by looking at the present, and we call it Last Thursday because we finish our projects, we demo our projects on Thursday. So it's more so like these are the repos that we worked on, but that's kind of the fun existential philosophy of what Last Thursday is and why I thought this was a funny name for it. So we have this like simple git log on the right, on the right, um, or this way. It's on the opposite side, stage left. Um, so uh, this is a git log, right? So git log one line is a command that you run in the terminal that's going to show you the history of your project, right? Each line is a commit, and it's going to be a snapshot of the code at that specific moment. So you read it from the bottom up. What was the first commit that was created here? Yes, yes. It's the initial commit scaffolding, right? Also, some of these commits are just like not that thoughtful, but we'll ignore that for the sake of just explaining the example, right? So, initial commit scaffolding. We're reading from the bottom up here, right? So then the next one was our README was added. Then the next was build gallery page layout, and then something went wrong, right? Broken screenshots. We had to fix them. So this is our fossil record, right? Um, this is every change, every fix, every feature time stamped, provable, right? So this is why we don't put our environment variables in our project ever, right? Like even if we move the environment variables out of the project or commit them out, or put them in a git ignore file after the project's already been instantiated and committed with the environment variables in them, the hackers can really easily see like, oh, F42B710 looks like there was environment variables in that commit, and then they took them out at 3D048C2, right? And those hex codes that I was just reading, the F42B710, right? Those are your commit hashes, right? So every commit is going to get a unique ID, and you can use that ID to go back in time to any snapshot, right? That's your git checkout. Git checkout F42B710. That's going to take you back to the initial commit, right? So Git is awesome for this. It's like your project has a little time machine built into it, right? And you could always go back to places where your code is, like not broken, or to a commit that you know is kind of the last stable commit, right? Again, this is why we're calling the project Last Thursday. I thought it was a cute little name. We want to prove that our work is real, and the git commits are those receipts. So if you are committing to the projects, committing to your own feature branches, then every Thursday we have that proof that our code is real and it's running it. You know. So yeah, like let's kind of look at what we're actually building now. I'm gonna get into it. So the project is last Thursday. We got a little file tree on the screen. I'll keep that the same size, but I'll make it smaller in a little bit. So this is what our project's going to look like. We're learning a little bit of organization here, right? So a top level folder called Last Thursday. We're going to have our readme.md, which is markdown language, inside there. That's the master doc that's sort of describing everything. Other people that look at this repo of repos will be able to read the readme in a nice visual language. We have an index.html, which will be our sort of simple visual gallery that you can open in the browser. And a projects folder, which is like one subfolder per week. Assets folder for screenshots, images, and we're gonna link to the other repos and sort of like referential things within there. We also, like, a lot of the things that we built don't necessarily live on a website yet, or they're not deployed yet. So we're gonna have to like kind of ideate and bounce brainstorm ideas off of each other about how we want to present the the projects, right? Is this a working directory? Right? Is this a working repo? When you click the subfolders, do we get like a description page, like a README, or do we get the actual functioning tool? In one case, it's it would be like a download for an extension for YouTube for the first week with re-rank everything. Second week, it would probably be like a link to the working TOS privacy policy site. Third week, it would be a link to our mobile OBS software. To get all of those programs to the point where they're like deployed and working, and people have access to using them as tools, is a lot, right? Or is it more so just like, these are the projects we worked on together, we can point at them and be like, this is an explanation of it. We don't need to like actively maintain all these repos. It's a good thing to talk about because knowing how we're going to maintain the site running, this would kind of make this week's project like also the project of like threading the needle on all the projects we've worked on in the past, because not all of them are at the point where they're like production ready. We can say that we shipped the demo, but did we actually ship a working version that can be sort of user facing at the end of the day? Big question mark with some of the projects. Definitely something that we can discuss. So the README is super important in sort of building our organizational understanding of projects and using Claude to help with coding. Claude's great at writing a solid README, right? You do have to audit it a little bit yourself, but it's going to be the first thing that people see on your GitHub repo, right? So it's the first thing that a new collaborator is going to read. It's the first thing that you're going to read when you bail on the project and haven't looked at it in 6 months and have no idea what you're doing but want to start working on it again, right? So a good README and having a good README will give you the answer to like, what is this? Why does it exist? How do I use it? What tech did it use? Who built it? What's its licensing? All this stuff, right? Then the gallery page that we're going to build out for this repo of repos is a visual index, right? Right now it can be like a simple HTML page that shows project cards with screenshots, descriptions, links, but I guess I'll open this to the class. Would we prefer to have it be a working repo of repos? Like, do we want the actual tools to work within their pages, or would we rather it just be like sort of a meta repo that then links to the other repositories? Feel free to answer in the chat. Um, uh, and I guess what I'm asking here is like, do we want the site, last Thursday site, an active repo? I'd rather learn best practice. All right, um, so you want all the tools working in the. All right, all the tools working. All right, yes. All right, so that's what chat says. Her get into it. YouTube chat. Would you prefer this application to be a working repo of all the repos? Like, what I mean when I say that is, do the actual project files themselves within the repo work, or are we just linking to their repositories somewhere else within the project? Um, and then I'll open this question up because I feel like this is a good thing for all of us to converse together as a team, because we're coding together. We are a code team. We're working on this, right? I'm just facilitating right now, right? So, question. This project, this last Thursday project, it is a repo of repos. Are we going to go back and make sure that all the projects we've worked on in the last 3 weeks work within this project? Yes or no? And sorry for being so binary on that. We got one vote for yes. 2 votes for yes. All right. 3 votes for yes. You guys are not going to make this easy on me or yourselves, but we're going to get everything working because that's how we learn to code. Jeez. Uh, it's going to be fun. But I will have to look through old code. We'll have to look through old code, stuff that I thought we would put away forever, you know? So, you know, when people ask, hey, what did you build in that coding class? I think it does make sense for y'all to be able to point to a website where the tools actually work, or they can actually download something that works, right? Is this my guarantee that all the tools are going to work? No, it is not, because that's a lot of work for us. But we will have some sort of functioning demos beyond just sort of like the meta, like, this is where the repos are and these are readmes. You know, it's going to go beyond just like the portfolio tagline, and these are actually going to be working, functioning applications, right? So, uh, by Thursday, we'll have the working demo of this, right? We'll always be iterating on it because this is eventually going to be, like, next week's project is going to go into this project. And yeah, so like week one we have re-rank. Week two we'll have toss up. Week three the stream everything thing, and then week four is like this recursive uh, project, right? Where the link to week four is like we actually worked on building this what you are looking at. Uh, um, does is anyone confused about what that means? Recursive. This is like key learn to code moment. When I say week 4 is recursive, does anybody know what that means? Cool. Yeah. Somebody says maybe this should be a ranked choice vote. That would be like double recursive, right? All right. It doesn't look as good if stuff doesn't work. All right. So somebody brings up a good point. It doesn't look as good if stuff doesn't work. I think then, since we're like torn on this, right? Uh, since we're torn on whether or not, like, if it doesn't work, we don't put up broken versions of things. If it doesn't work, we just switch it into the like read only mode, right? But I think that is a good point. This is us brainstorming together, right? Byron says it will be good for investors slash employers to be able to look at that. It makes the multiverse more valuable as well as the education that we get from the multiverse. Didn't even think about that, right? But yeah, if we can prove as like a coding team that we're building these things, then that makes the multiverse school look good too, as an institution, as an establishment, right? Um, yeah, we could always use it also to review things, because like essentially what we're setting up is our little coding firm, our code team, if you will. So in the case that you go to the last Thursday repo of repos, and there, week two's project is a little bit buggy, and you're like, hey, I've been pushing, I've been interviewing for jobs, and I've been linking people to week two's project, and it's like not working. Could we either take that down and put it into readme only mode, or like figure out a way to get that working? Then you make like a little bug or issue, git issue, and somebody goes and fixes that. Then all of a sudden we're having that sort of like meta recursive, like the project becomes useful in and of itself, right? Because somebody gets the to do the pull request where they fix the project. They bolster their own GitHub account, and the project looks good on another person's interview, portfolio, resume, whatever. A lot of moving parts, right? But that's code. We're taking all these moving parts and we're putting them together in a way that is organized, and is helpful to us, right? So yeah, value building. That's definitely what we're doing here. So there are different ways to organize code, right? And it's worth kind of like understanding the options that we have. So that's kind of what we're doing here through talking about what we're building here. The anatomy of a README. We're gonna get into the boring stuff. READMEs are important, right? This is Markdown on the left here, right? It's the language that READMEs are written in. It's the language that you may have seen from using Obsidian or any sort of Markdown GUI. Every GitHub project uses it, and Claude's good at reading it, and computers are great at reading it, and it makes it readable for people too. So let's read it together, right? Each symbol has syntactical meaning, right? The hashtag, the pound sign for some is top level heading. It's a big heading, right? It's the project name, right? And then second level headings sections, two pound signs, uh, uh, three pound signs, right? Those are our H2s, H3s for HTML heads, right? Bold is going to be two asterisks, right? Uh, like this tech right here. Status link, right? Um, and then links are, we have square brackets and then the URL in parentheses is where it goes. So what's in the square brackets is what you're going to see to like click here. And then what's in the parens is going to be the link. Uh, it's an important syntax for Markdown is linking out, right? And then uh, three hyphens is our horizontal line and our little line. We can use that to separate sections within our README. And when GitHub renders your README from the Markdown, everything, the pound sign becomes the heading, the hashtag becomes the heading. We got bold, we got our lines. I know this is like, ugh, so boring, but it's important to know Markdown. Also, important to know that Claude and Chat GPT, the GPT who must not be named right now, because of their relationship to the war, is they're great at writing readmes, right? Really great at writing readmes. Really great at taking your content and turning it into Markdown. There's also a few sites that allow for uh, Markdown live previewing and online Markdown editors. What did I use? Dillinger.io was one I used to use. Dillinger.io. You type stuff here. It's a little bit of a WYSIWYG, but you're not gonna memorize all the Markdown syntax. So there are options out there. I highly encourage you to use AI for writing readmes. It just makes it easy. And now it's like one of those things where like all readmes are written by AI. You can just tell, no one's out there writing these robust readmes like they were in 2018. So the ways that we can organize this repo beyond just the like, should it be working versions of our projects? Should it not be working version, or should it be like just like links to our repos, right? One way is the mono repo, right? Everything thrown in one giant repository, which we might be doing a little bit of. Google does this, Meta does this, right? The advantage of having this setup is that all your code is in one place. It's easy to share the utilities. It's easy to search. The downside of this sort of code is it becomes the mono repo, the monolith, right? It gets massive, and then you need to build special tooling just to navigate it, just to manage it, right? It's definitely not practical for most teams, but it's good to know that this sort of repo architecture exists, right? Then we could have the poly repo. Each project gets its own repository. This is how most open source works, right? React is a repo, Express is a repo. They don't live together, right? The advantage is that each repository is clean, focused on what it does. The downside is that if you have 50 projects, you have 50 repos. So basically it is what we have right now, right? With our past projects, we have three repos, and three different folders on my computer, that are kind of scattered across my computer, right? So and the internet in different ways. And then there's the meta repo, star, right? We are, this is kind of what we're going to be building, right? But it's going to be working versions of the meta repo. So we're going to need to build out the repos within the repos. Anyways, this repo, this last Thursday repo, uh, won't contain the other project's code. We'll need to go back to those repos and fix the code within them. But the last Thursday repo will be a meta repo that organizes those repos. And I just say repo one more time, okay? uh, uh, so at least the other repos, it will describe them. It will show screenshots. You'll get the organization of the mono repo without actually merging everything into one giant code base, right? So this is what last Thursday is. And our projects are scattered right now. The videos are scattered right now. So this is sort of a poly repo without a map, right? Uh, um, and yeah, I think it's like pretty basic to see like why the meta repo would kind of fix everything. And why just like moving everything into one folder is not the vibe. So having all these independent projects that have different tech and have different purposes make it so that we have to, it's a better idea organizationally to reference the other projects, to index the other projects, than put them all in the same project. So we will work on getting the other repos up to speed working. But the last Thursday project is a meta repo that will connect them without merging them, right? Does this make sense? I'm sorry if it's like kind of, all right. Later, yeah, the video will be up so you can watch it. Um, cool, wonderful. Um, yeah, yeah, it's I've yeah, makes sense, makes sense. Easy peasy. We love it. All right. So, let's do a little bit of live coding with Claude, right? Uh, Claude will generate what we tell Claude to generate, right? So in this situation, we say build a project card in HTML for re-rank everything, a browser extension from week one, dark theme, status badge, tech tags, right? And a rule that I want to get us into following when we're coding, whether that's helping with the group project or coding your own personal project and relying on AI tools, is to never ship code that you can't explain, right? AI helps us draft, but you're going to decide at the what stays at the end of the day, right? I want you to be able to read a code like this before we start, right? So when we look to the right, left, when we look to the left, what is this code doing, right? Easy, just you could think out loud. What does div class equals card do, right? This is some basic HTML, right? It's creating a container, a box. It's grouping the content together. It's giving that box a name so CSS can style it, right? And then we have image source, right? I read it in my head as image circ, but image source is pulling the file path from the image, right? If I rename the file but don't update the source, it's going to be a broken image, right? And then we have H2, which is our headers. Difference between H1 and H2. H2 is a little bit smaller, right? H2 would be like a section title. H1 is a page title, right? And then span class equals badge shipped, like a div, but in line, right? So it's not going to create a new line. It's not going to create a new container. It's great for like badges or when we're applying different styling to link stuff that's like within the text, variables, JavaScript even. So the p tag, that's a paragraph, basic text block, right? If you have any questions looking at this HTML, this is some like simple HTML. I don't want to make you feel bad about not knowing what it means. I would point you towards having a little conversation with Claude, having a little conversation with the GPTs that Liz made. 7 coding languages in 7 weeks. Ask about HTML. Like walk through, like practice simple HTML. Practice making your own kind of single page applications. You're going to be looking at a lot of HTML. You're going to be looking at a lot of different kinds of HTML in your code journey. So it's good to kind of at least just like understand the basic of what this syntax does. This is like the sort of coding with Claude slide that I made, but I want to actually like get into building out the foundation for this project within Claude. So let's pull this open, and then I will move terminal into new window. All right, so, and is that? So I will say Claude. Let's open Claude. Welcome back, Nico. We're within a file structure of what we're going to be using. And this is Claude code. And so we want to kind of build the foundation for the repo, right? So generally when I start with Claude, I do a little bit of a brain dump. This is a simple program. It's going to be a repo of repos. So we'll probably eventually want this to be deployed to a website. We'll ask it basically what we should build, or we'll tell it what we need to build. All right. So, oops. Hey Claude, can you start to build me a project called Last Thursday, which will be a web-based application, a website that shows the repositories that we've built and worked on in the Multiverse Schools Learn to Code class. I want each of the pages to have referential materials for the projects that we worked on In some cases, I want demos of the tools that we built themselves if we were able to successfully build them. Um, uh, if not, would prefer that they just have the readmes from the GitHub repo, as well as links to YouTube videos from those class sessions, and anything else you can think of. I need this project itself to be a Git repo. Make sure that the environment variables and other security vulnerabilities are added to the Git ignore. And right now, let's set up essentially the template for what this website should look like. Okay. We'll pull this open. All right, so Claude's doing their thing. Gonna start building, and then we'll get this repo up and out the door. So it's checking current directory first and then building it out. It's going to take a little moment, and this is the process of being of coding in 2026. You just tell the computer to code for you, but there's a lot of auditing that needs to be done, right? It's not always like one shot, you know. Something like this, where we're just making the foundation for a project, is useful to
Job is done.
do with Claude. And then if you were watching the YouTube, I got my Claude to tell me when it has questions. So yes, and always allow access to last Thursday from this project. So if you're on Windows, VS Code and Claude Code, really nice IDE. If you're on Mac, yeah, VS Code still I think is solid. You could also just use Claude Code from the terminal on Mac. That might make more sense. But for me, I've noticed that using WSL on VS Code, the sort of Linux box, is better with Claude. If you've had different experiences on PC using PowerShell with Claude, please let me know. And why do I do this? I think it's because of Unix. And that's helpful for me to code. You know what? I learned something recently. A fun while we're waiting for Claude to generate this splash page. That Linux was originally going to be called Freaks, Freax. It's like free Unix. And when I forget who thumbs down that name, but and then they're like, we'll just call it Linux because your name's Linus.
Job
right?
is done.
Cool. And Claude's gonna be so because Claude is gonna run the git init and git add to this. If Claude starts committing within your Git project, Claude will be a collaborator on that Git project. This is important to know, right? If you do not want Claude to show up as a collaborator on your Git project, you need to make all the Git commits from a different terminal. You can't have Claude git commit. Claude is kind of strict about his author or about their authorship, right? I don't mind having Claude as a collaborator on my code. I think it's important to be honest about using AI tools in your project because it helps exorcise that sort of like imposter syndrome that I feel like developers are struggling with at the moment, where it's like, oh, your like code is commented out by AI. It's like, yeah, my code's commented out by AI because I'm horrible at writing comments, and this makes my code more legible for the people that I'm working with. It makes me a more efficient developer, right? This is like a sweet thing to do for the team, right? And so Claude is part of the team in that way, you know? It's like saying that it's like how on GitHub your program is written in the languages that it's written in. So we give Claude the yes to proceed. Once Claude commits, Claude will be a collaborator on this GitHub repo, and now the project is set up, right? We can test it out
Job is done.
by going to this index page here, and we have a very, very basic sort of boilerplate template, bootstrapped version of what last Thursday will look like. I will throw this up on a GitHub repo so that people can peruse those files and look at what we worked on today. Claude did a good job at that, I think, but I didn't expect Claude to do a bad job at this. And then this is the project that we're working on this week. One thing I will say about the way that Claude designs things is there's a vibe to it. I think years from now, we're going to look at websites that look like this, like all of this, as kind of like emblematic of vibe coded projects, right? So, if you're a more designy person, if you have an aesthetic stripe to you, would love input on how we make these projects look less bootstrap Claude. No offense to Claude. I feel like it does a great job at things. And in certain ways, like what it's doing here with the design is what is like the probabilistic, like what is the best way to convey this information to our end user, right? Simple cards, right? But there are so many ways that you can display the projects that we've worked on. It could be a game in and of itself. It could be a 3D environment, right? But this is how Claude's gonna do it, right? Dark mode kind of feels like Discord, kind of feels like a crypto website, kind of feels like any bootstrapped website you've interacted with in the last year. It's got a vibe to it. But that's that. Great job, Claude. So what are we looking at this week? Today we kind of scaffolded the project. We set up the repo structure. We walked through the README. We started this gallery page. I'm going to throw up the GitHub repo link. You will find that in the Matrix server if you're part of the Matrix server. If you're not part of the Matrix server and you're following along with these Learn to Code classes strictly from the YouTube and don't have Multiverse Campus access, the link to the GitHub repo will be somewhere in tomorrow's demonstration. You will have access to the repo at some point. It's open source. We're not keeping these two locked down, right? So tomorrow on Wednesday we're gonna build this thing out, right? Project cards, screenshots, descriptions, polish, give it some love, right? And then by Thursday we're gonna have a working project This is not a super complex project. The complicated part of it is deciding how we're going to organize and maintain past projects, right? This is more of a meta project. Like thinking about how we organize our projects, thinking about how we keep our projects going. And the Thursday tradition, right? So by Thursday we have this working demo, right? It's not perfect, it's not finished, but it works on Thursday. I kind of tweak things over the weekend, right? This one's going to be different, right? Because we're going to add to last Thursday as we work through Thursdays of different weeks, right? So after week 4, we're going to have week 5, we're going to have week 6, we're going to have week 7. This repo of repos is going to grow. It's going to be the infinitely maintained repo because we're going to add repos into it. So how do we manage that sort of automated updates to this repo? It's important to figure it out. It's also important that we keep this discipline of shipping things every week, whether that's a group project or a personal project you're working on, or a feature within a project that you're working on, or your job, or interviewing for a job, looking for work at the moment, bolstering your own resume, right? Your own portfolio. So what we're doing here, this is more valuable than, learning the specific technologies themselves. It's like being able to present what you're working on. Most people aren't shipping anything, right? We're shipping every Thursday, and that's what this is going to show. So, last Thursday, right? The universe may have been created last Thursday, but we have our Git commits, we have our code, we have screenshots, we have demos, right? Our work has this provable history, and that's what this project's all about. We want to make our history visible, organized, and real. All right. That's today's stuff. Look out for the link to the GitHub repo. And instructions for how to get up and running with that in the Matrix server, or during tomorrow's class. We'll be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm not going to see you till then, so code something. Code a line of code today. Just code something, anything. It could be a personal project. It could be, anything. Code something. If you want to contribute between projects without having access to the last Thursday repo of repos, start thinking about how we are going to organize the projects. Maybe look through past videos and get the links to past GitHub repos for those projects, and take screenshots, compile them on your computer, right? Any of these contributions are going to be going into this repo. We want to kind of have the archivist mentality with this stuff. But thanks for joining us today. I know it was a little bit dense with the code stuff, but that's what we get, because yesterday was just dense with the news stuff. So I will see you all tomorrow. Code something.